Alright, hi everyone. Welcome to my Kid Icarus tutorial. So this is going to be a speedrun tutorial for beginners. I'm going to assume that you've played Kid Icarus before and that you know some of the very basic stuff, like you know the controls and maybe some of the stage layouts. But the idea is that maybe you've played the game before and now you're thinking about giving the speedrun a try. That's who this is for. My plan is to just kind of go through the game from start to finish, and I'll explain things as we get to them. And it's a really cool speedrun. We get to do some interesting things. There's going to be some sequence breaking. It's a hard game, and it's going to take a lot of practice. But I'm making this tutorial because I'm hoping that some more people will give it a try. It can be a lot of fun if you put some practice into it. Alright, so let's get started. One of the first things you're going to notice on this stage is that I might get hit once or twice from some of these enemies here. That's perfectly fine. There's a chalice that we're going to get about halfway through the level, and it's going to completely fill up our health. So what that means is you really don't want to slow down here to avoid damage. Just go as fast as you can. If you get hit a couple of times, it's not really going to matter. Alright, so climb, climb, climb. Take this path to the right, and it's going to wrap you around to the left side of the screen. And if you climb really fast, you can actually despawn a Reaper that would usually appear up here by the chalice. Okay, so I just got the chalice. We want to be careful with these jumps over here. So go as fast as you are comfortable with, but be a little bit careful. I should mention that there's another chalice on the way pretty soon. It's going to be at the beginning of stage 1-2. So if you get hit by these Reapers, or if you get hit by the little Reapettes that they spawn, it's not going to matter too much, as long as you make it to the next chalice in one piece. Alright, so this amount of health, finishing the level, is perfectly fine. And that's it for stage 1-1. So before I start stage 1-2, I want to quickly mention something. The way that I'm recording this tutorial is I'm recording each stage separately, and then I'm going to stitch them all together at the end. What this means is that you might sometimes notice that I start a level with a different amount of hearts or health or points than what I had finishing the previous one. I don't think that's really going to affect anything, but I just thought I would mention it here. So here on stage 1-2, there's a few things we need to talk about. I'm going to kill a couple of enemies first and get a couple of hearts, and I'm going to pause here so we can talk about it. So when you pause, the game shows you a few different things. The first thing you see at the top, it says total. It's 2,500 right now. That's the number of points that I got on stage 1-1. And then underneath it, the score is showing how many points I've gotten on this stage so far. And at the end of the level, it's going to tally up all the points, and it adds the score to the total, and that becomes our new total. Which is kind of weird. It's different from the way most games do points. But the reason I'm talking about this is because there are health upgrades that we can get throughout the game. And when we get to 20,000 points, we'll get our first health upgrade. That'll take us from 1 bar of health to 2 bars. Later in the run, we'll probably get the 50,000 upgrade. We probably won't get the last 2 upgrades, but there they are anyway. All right, so back to the pause screen. I think we're going to try to get that health upgrade in stage 1-3. But what's a little bit more immediate, what I want to talk about for 1-2, is we're going to try to get a strength upgrade. So you see that it shows one little arrow icon next to our strength. So let's talk about this. Stage 1-2 and stage 2-1 are the 2 places where I want us to get strength upgrades. Now, in addition to the score that we just talked about, the game kind of has another separate hidden score on these levels. As we kill enemies, collect hearts, and try to avoid damage, you rack up these invisible points that the game doesn't show you. And then near the end of the stage, when you go in a certain door, there's a guy there that will give you a strength upgrade if you've gotten enough of these invisible points. Basically what this means for us is in stage 1-2, it can be worth it to actually slow down and kill enemies and slow down to pick up hearts, rather than just going as fast as we possibly can. So that when we get to the door, we get the strength upgrade. Just a quick note here about point values. Enemies in this game can be grouped into small, medium, and large categories, and the hearts can also be thought of as small, medium, and large. For stage 1, 2, we're probably going to focus the most on trying to kill those medium enemies and picking up the medium hearts. And these are just some of the common enemies in those groups. You can figure out the other enemies based on what kind of heart they drop. Alright, so I'll talk about this a little bit more while I'm playing, but main thing to take away from that is on this stage, I'm going to slow down a little bit to kill groups of enemies. I mean, I still want to go as fast as I can, but killing enemies and getting hearts is really important. You can usually group them together on the left side of the screen or the right side of the screen. Every time I kill one of those or pick up their heart, it's getting me these invisible points. It's also getting me ordinary points, so that's good too. Okay, so we're on our way. This Reaper sometimes will see you and sometimes won't. Either way's fine. You know there's a chalice right up here, so grab that if you need to. Just gonna keep on going here. Kill that. And we're on our way. There's another Reaper up here, so we'll be a little bit careful. You could kill the Reaper if you want to. I'll usually try to skip that one at least and just move on. Be very careful about this ice, especially this platform right here. I'm going to stop for a moment to talk about it. Two things you have to be careful with ice. Of course, number one, it's slippery. For some reason, this platform especially, I think because of the amount of momentum you get, it's easy to underestimate your momentum and just go flying off the edge. The second thing that you have to watch out for with ice is if you try to duck, you're going to fall through it. So don't do that if it's going to drop you into a hole. Okay, let's move on. Be careful with these jumps here. There should be another group of 4 enemies coming. Usually you can group them together if you stay on this little platform. Try to kill all 4 and get the hearts. Hearts are also useful, by the way, because later on we might want to buy something. Use the hearts as currency. You know, a lot of what we've done so far, I've said it doesn't matter if you get hit because there's a chalice on the way. But we've already passed the 2 chalices that this stage offers, so I would rather not get hit too much here. But we're fine. We took 1 little hit, but everything's fine. Get up here, stop and kill these things if you want to, you know, if they're in your way. Once you get up to here, I want to mention there's 2 different ways you could go. You could jump up this way, or you could wrap around the screen. Oh, I almost got hit there. Wrap around the screen and hop up here. Either way, it takes about the same amount of time, whichever one you're more comfortable with. So this is the door. You notice I skipped all the other doors that we've seen so far. Go in here. You see this guy. He's happy to see us because we got enough of the invisible hidden points. We killed lots of stuff. We got lots of hearts. He gives us the strength upgrade. So I'm going to pause here, and you see that now we have 2 little arrow icons next to strength, so we're twice as powerful as before. By the way, when I unpause, he's gone, but that's fine. I want to say that if you come in here, and he's not here to greet you, and he's not here to give you the strength upgrade, it means you didn't get enough points, and you really just need to reset the run. Just reset, start over from scratch. Because this strength upgrade is really essential, and we only get this 1 shot at getting the strength upgrade in this level. Because once we leave this door, we can't come back in. So, if he's not here, reset, try to kill more enemies next time. We're right near the end of this stage. Hop up here. A lot of times this Reaper won't see you. Well, since I said that, the Reaper saw me, but that's fine. And now we start stage 1-3, which is one of the hardest stages in the whole game. Okay, so we finished stage 1-2, we got the strength upgrade there. Before we go any further in this stage, I'm right at the beginning, and I want to show you my health is not full. And something that might be a good idea for you, especially if you're a beginner, is take an intentional death. If I scroll the screen high enough and drop down, it kills me. The reason I'm doing that, it's going to fill up my health. I'm back in the game with full health. It doesn't really hurt anything. It just takes a few seconds to do it. Just jump up here, and you're dead. So I would recommend you do that at the beginning of stage 1-3. There's some other stages where you might want to do that also. Really, you could do it at the beginning of any stage, just some of them it takes longer. Alright, so in this stage, we don't have to worry about the strength upgrade or any hidden points or anything like that. But remember, I did talk about health upgrades. So I'm going to pause for a moment. Let's take a look at this. It looks like my total is 14,300, and my current score for this level is 900. So let's look at this. Remember, I said that if we get to 20,000, we're going to get a health upgrade. We're going to have 2 bars of health. Right now, we have 1 bar. That's what the game is showing as endurance. So I want to get to 20,000 by the end of this level. So let's just keep an eye on that as we play the level. We'll try to kill some enemies, try to get points. So at the beginning of this level, I said that it's one of the hardest levels, and I think what makes it so hard is that we don't have the health upgrade yet. So we have very little health to work with. Alright, we kill these, get some points. So I am going to slow down a little bit to get points, but I think it's going to be worth it for a beginner to get this health upgrade before we go any further in the game. I like to take this right path. If you take this right path here, you don't have to worry about any of those weird tentacle thorn things or whatever they are. We will have to deal with some of them later in the stage, but at least we don't have to do those ones. Alright, you could wrap around here. I think that helps to get up on this platform safely. You might be able to make that jump, but I'm just going to wait and play it safe. Jump up here. Jump up here if you feel like it's safe. If you don't, you can just wait a cycle. And let's go. If you get to here with as much health as possible, I think that's really going to help you because we have some tough stuff coming up. A lot of times in this area, if you just keep moving, you'll be alright. I think, you know, I'd rather not stop to deal with them. Oh, maybe I should mention that to get that harp, I did a little hop. I think that that's a good way to do it, is do a small hop pretty late. It helps because it'll turn these snakes into mallets. Alright, so we have to be careful on these things. These jumps are really bad. These, whatever they are, I call them thorns, they have really big hitboxes. I'm going to stop here just to talk about it. I like to position myself right in the middle, do a vertical jump, and that helps. On this one, you can kind of lean over the edge a little bit, like, kill these. Lean over a little bit, and vertical jump and hold right. Vertical jump, hold left. Position myself in the middle, vertical jump, hold right. Vertical jump, hold left. Lean over the edge, vertical jump. It takes practice. They're really bad. If this thing notices you, it's not that big of a deal. When I get here, I like to wrap around to the right. I'm killing that Reaper thing first, because they cause a lot of lag, so I like to kill them first. I like to wrap around, get up on these platforms, and get up here quickly. Once you're up here, usually you're going to find that you have to wait for this platform to come back. So that's fine, we'll wait. There's a Reaper coming up. If you do a full jump here, sometimes you can get the Reaper to fall through the floor. Didn't fall through that time, but either way is fine. This Reaper is going to be up on a platform here. It's kind of up to you if you want to take this area slowly and try to not be detected by that Reaper, or if you just want to go quickly, get spotted, and then deal with the enemies that spawn. Alright, so let's sneak past. There's one more Reaper coming up that I'm going to try to jump over. We might get seen here, but let's try not to. Ah, we got spotted. That's fine, just get in quickly, and usually they won't hit you. And here it is, we got 20,000, getting that health upgrade. So here we are in stage 1-4. This is the first of the fortress or dungeon levels. These are the non-linear levels that can be a little bit like a maze if you don't know your way through. Let's talk about a few things first. We just got the health upgrade, so you see below me that we have 2 bars of health. It's kind of weird that the fortress levels have a different HUD. We have our health at the bottom of the screen. Anyway, we have a max capacity of 2 bars of health, but right now my health is a little bit under halfway. What I'm going to do is go into this first room and do an intentional death. I think that's going to help you on this stage because we want as much health as we can get for the boss fight. This is a beginner tutorial, so, you know, let's try to get as much health as we can before the fight. In fact, if you'd like to, if you're comfortable doing this, towards the end of 1-3 you could try to start taking damage. That way you enter this level with just a little sliver of health and then go into that next room and die in a single hit. That's up to you. So I'm doing this tutorial playing on an EverDrive, on a real NES, so I can do save states. So I'm going to make a save state here. I might make some save states later in the level because there's a couple of things that are tricky that we need to talk about. First of all, there are multiple ways to get through these dungeons. There's the intended route, but that's not what I want to show you. I want to show you the wall clip route. I keep saying that this is for beginners, but I really think that the wall clip route is the best route to learn, even if you're new at this. I think that you're going to be glad that you did. It's basically a trick that's going to let us skip part of this level, and we're also going to be using that trick in stage 2-4 and 3-4, so if you get used to it now, you'll be doing essentially the same trick on all 3 of the fortress levels. Alright, so I'll talk about it more when we get to that room, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. We're not going to be doing the intended route through this stage. Alright, in this room, try to get through taking as little damage as you can. 1 hit is okay. Usually try to take 1 hit or no hits. So we went right, we're going to go right again. These things die in 1 hit. Once you get here, you're going to go down. I'm going to kill this enemy, and I want to show you something. See what I just did there? I did a little ducking while I was shooting. So I haven't talked about this yet. Now's a good time to talk about it. If you just mash the fire button, you shoot at about this rate. I'm kind of pressing it as fast as I can. If you duck in between shots, very brief duck in between shots, you can do a little bit more of a rapid fire. It's a little bit tough. That's shooting just a little bit faster than I ordinarily would. I like to do it on enemies like this one. I'm going to leave and come back in and show you. So, you know, it's questionable whether or not that was faster or not, but this is something that I know that I could get a little bit better at. I'm going to be doing that on the first boss, so I thought I would talk about it now so that when we do it on the boss, it's not a complete surprise. But it's just shoot, duck, shoot, duck, shoot, duck. You're just tapping down very briefly in between shots. All right, in this room, we're going to go down, go here and duck. In this room, we want to go down again. I like to wait for a moment, drop down, try to avoid that hit. But if you take 1 hit, it's not a big deal. We build up our health at the beginning of the level. Let me try to show you this again, because we can do this without getting hit. Maybe I'll make a save state. Alright, I'm making a save state here. Let's try to not get hit this time. Just like that. Alright, I'm going to show you again since I messed it up once. Come in, wait, and down. That's what I like to do in that room. Okay, so it looks like we're at a dead end. In fact, I need to make a save state, because this is a very important room for us. There's my save state. First thing you want to do, shoot this, jump over to the left, shoot, 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 kill it. Okay? You notice that there are 2 pots that drop snakes in this room. There's the one underneath me over here, and then there's the one that's up here. Well, the game can only have 4 snakes on the screen at once. So I purposely went over here to the left to trigger this left pot to drop 4 snakes so that when I come over here, this one won't trigger. Okay? I'm going to kill this guy. And now we have no enemies up here with us on the top half of the screen. Lots of enemies on the bottom. That's what we want. We don't want any enemies in our way here because there's a trick that we're going to try to do, and it's best to not have any enemies in the way. This is important, so I'm going to load the save state and do it again to show you. Alright, enter the room, shoot, jump over, kill this guy. We triggered the pot. Come over here, kill this guy. That's how you want to start this room. You don't want snakes coming out of this one for the trick that we're about to try. I'm going to make another save state so we can work on this. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to clip through this wall and get to the bottom half of the screen. We want to go down in this room. If you've played Kid Icarus for any length of time, you might have noticed that collision on corners is a little bit janky. See how I can kind of like get myself embedded in the block just a little bit, like that? That's something that I always noticed when I was playing this as a kid. I mean, corners are just a little weird. You kind of get embedded in them a little bit. What I didn't know back then is that we can utilize this to do some nice shortcuts. I'm not sure who originally discovered this. You know, I would give credit if I knew. It certainly wasn't me. I'm not really showing you tricks that I figured out myself. I would give credit if I knew who it was, but unfortunately I don't. But we're gonna do a shortcut here. So, there's a few different things to talk about. First of all, notice that Kid Icarus gives you a lot of variation in the heights of your jumps. So this is what a full jump looks like. I usually pay attention to the front of Pit's front foot to look at what height I'm going. So that's a full jump. I could jump a little bit lower, like that. Or I could do a very short jump like that. That's about the shortest I can do, short hop. There's a lot of in between, a lot of different height jumps we can make. Okay, so if you look at like the front of Pit's foot where it's hitting the bricks, there's a lot of little variation in there depending on how hard you hit the button, how long you hold the button when you jump. The trick that we're going to do involves a jump that almost is high enough to get on top of that brick. Like, you know, full height would get you up here. But we're going to do a jump that's about that height. Like, almost enough to get all the way up, but if we tried to push left, we would just kind of get stuck in the block a little bit and fall down. That's the height jump that I'm going to want to do. But I'm going to be doing it as a running jump. So I'm going to run from here and jump. Right now I'll just run and jump and show you. Something like that is how we're going to start off the trick. Okay, so the height of the jump I'm trying to show you is almost high enough to get on top of the brick, but not quite. The second component in the trick is that because it's going to be a running jump, we're going to have to jump from the right spot. Right around here or so is the right spot. When I do this trick, I'll show you it a little closer. But we're going to jump from in front of this pillar. This is going to take you a while to master. In fact, I would say that I haven't mastered it. It might take me some tries here. In some runs, you might get it on your first try. In some runs, it might take you a lot of tries. So let me give it a few tries here, and hopefully I can show you the full trick. There it is. Alright, so I did get it on my first try. That doesn't always happen. But we clipped right through the wall. What I'm going to do now, because I have a recording, is I'm going to show you this trick a few times in a row. And maybe I can sort of zoom in and show it to you in slow motion. Alright, so now that you've seen the trick a few times, let me discuss it a little bit more. There are basically three components. The first thing that I talked about before I even showed you the trick was jumping to the correct height. So, number one, make sure you can jump not too high and not too low. You want to be almost high enough, like these jumps that I'm doing here. Almost high enough to get up on top of the brick, but not quite. But it's a running jump. So you also need to jump from the right spot, which hopefully you saw you know, from when I showed it to you in slow motion. You can see where it's leaving the ground, but, you know, right around there. And then the third component of the trick is, as you jump into the brick, you notice that I turn around, and you need to turn around at the right moment. But honestly, I think that that is somewhat lenient. Like, when you press right is somewhat lenient. The more important things are you jumping to the correct height, and are you leaving the ground from the right spot? So you leave the ground from the right spot and turn around when you're in the block. we're gonna be doing this trick again in 2-4 and 3-4, although the room layouts will be a little bit different, so we'll have to talk about it a little more then as well. I'm telling you, this trick is going to take a lot of practice, and even after a lot of practice, you should not expect to get it on your first try. But I'm still including it in this beginner tutorial because knowing this trick, it's a great shortcut through this level. It means that you don't have to learn the other half of the level, and you don't have to worry about eggplant wizards on this level, which if you've done this game casually, you know what I'm talking about. The eggplant wizards are the worst. There's also some pretty bad spike rooms that we don't want to deal with. So this cuts out a lot of nasty rooms. And since we're going to want to do this trick in 2-4 and 3-4, I think it's best to just learn the trick and do it in all 3 levels. I'll tell you right now, even though we'll talk about it more later, we're going to do a variation of this trick in 3-4 that's going to let us skip the boss. So that one is going to be the biggest time save out of the 3 wall clips that we're going to do. But I think you should just learn it and do it in all 3 levels. So don't get too frustrated. It takes practice. I'm going to do this just a few more times before we move on. You're going to see me fail at it a few times, but that's just part of the practice. All right, so I got it that time. Let's try it again. Got it that time. All right, I failed it that time. Just wasn't precise enough. Failed it again. That was, some of these look close. That's what it's going to look like when you fail. Jump too high that time. If you jump too high, you wind up on top. Maybe I'm jumping at the wrong moment. There we go. When you get through, try not to take any hits from these enemies. I mean, sometimes it's unavoidable. You might land right on top of one of them. But basically, I like to do the trick and get down this ladder. I mean, I've been standing here just because I'm still talking. But, if you can avoid taking a hit, that's great. Even if you have to kill a snake that's about to collide with you, taking the time to kill 1 or 2 snakes can be worth it to avoid a hit. Alright, get through and go down. Alright, so let's continue. I will talk about that trick a little more when we get to 2-4 and 3-4. You could go back and look at the spot where I showed it a few times, and I showed it in slow motion, and hopefully that helps a little bit. So the next room is the boss. Let's get down here. I'll usually duck just to make sure I don't get hit by any snakes. Kill this guy. He's in your way, so kill him. And I'm going to make a save state here because we're going to do the boss a few times so I can talk about that. Okay, so this boss is a little tough, and hopefully you got here with a somewhat decent amount of health. Maybe you have as much as I have, or maybe you have a little bit less than that. What you don't want to do is you don't want to get here with like a sliver of health like you're about to die. Try to get here with some health like this. Maybe I will start by showing you the boss a couple of times, and then maybe I'll talk about it some more. But basically, we're going to try to lock the boss in place. We're not always going to be successful with that. It's a little tricky, but let's go in and see what happens. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to stand just a couple pixels ahead of this pillar, maybe fire a couple of shots. We're going to try to lock him into place and start doing rapid fire. All right, that's the fight. That's pretty much how you want it to go. Didn't take too much damage, but I'm going to show this a couple more times. When you enter, sometimes the boss will be walking towards you, sometimes the boss will jump, sometimes the boss will shoot. It's tough to predict exactly what the boss is going to start doing. We have enough health that we can afford to take a hit by a fireball. It'll be okay. I'm going to walk. There's a few different places you can get him locked in. I like this spot. Alright, looks good. You don't actually have to touch that treasure chest to finish the level, by the way. It'll automatically finish the level in a couple seconds, but I want to show this a few more times. Maybe I'll show you what happens if we don't successfully lock the boss in place. Alright, I enter, try to get to my spot, maybe start firing a couple of shots. Sometimes he won't even start walking right away. You can just like stand here and get some shots in. Alright, so I'm not gonna lock him into place this time. You know, like maybe he hits us and then he like does that sometimes. Sometimes he'll, you know, keep going to the left. If you wind up on this side of him, start firing shots. Follow him, get some shots in. He might wrap around the screen. And then you kind of start over again. You know, maybe you lock him into place, maybe you don't. Follow him. The main thing is, we tried to get here with that health upgrade and with enough health. You know, that's why I wanted us to get to 20,000 points in level 1-3. Really helps with this boss fight. Let's try it one more time. Took a hit, that's okay. I'm gonna start firing shots right away. Sometimes he doesn't even walk. If you keep doing these rapid fire shots like this, sometimes you do the whole fight that way. Alright, something like that. Again, this is gonna take practice. If you have the ability to do save states, I would recommend you do that. Practice the wall clip and the boss fight. So now we start stage 2-1, which is the first side-scrolling stage of the game. And before we start it, let me just remind you that back in stage 1-2, I said that there were 2 stages in the game where we wanted to get strength upgrades. So here we are, we're at stage 2-1, we want to get a strength upgrade. That means we're going to kill enemies, collect hearts, and try to avoid damage, even if it means slowing down slightly. You know, if there's enemies that we need to stop for a moment to kill them, it might be worth it. Because towards the end of the level, we're going to go in a door. There's going to be a guy. If we got enough of these hidden points that the game doesn't show us, then we get the strength upgrade, just like in stage 1-2. Now, for stage 2-1, we're going to focus on killing large enemies. Remember that the enemies in this game can be divided into 3 categories, small, medium, and large. So look at the second enemy that I have in the 500 point category. That second enemy down there, it's this rock enemy. They fall from the sky on this level, and every time we kill one of them, we're going to get 500 of these hidden skill points. And also, they drop a large heart, and every time we grab the large heart, we get 500 hidden skill points. So if you kill one, grab the heart, then you just got 1,000 of these hidden skill points. The number that we actually need to get to is 10,000 by the time we get to the door near the end of the level. So if you kill 10 of these rocks and you pick up all 10 of the big hearts they drop, then that should be enough. I'm probably going to recommend that we try to kill a couple extra, maybe get to about 12 of them and 12 hearts, because you know, it'll give us a little bit of a buffer and make sure that we have it, because we're really going to want that strength upgrade. Alright, so let's start the level. And I think what I'm going to do is an intentional death again, because you might get here and you just fought a boss, maybe your life is not really that full, so let's go do an intentional death. I'm going to jump over these snakes and try to get hit by a falling rock. You notice that that falling rock killed me in 1 hit. They actually do a ton of damage, and if I had tried to kill myself on the snakes instead, it would have taken longer, it would have taken a few hits. Okay, so let's skip this harp, because that would turn enemies into mallets. And we don't want them to be mallets, we want to be shooting them and getting the hearts. I've already killed 3 of them, that's 4 of them, and I got all 4 hearts. There's 5. So you see, it's going to be very easy to get to 10. That's 6. 7. Missed that one, that's fine. 8. It's 9. See, I'm going back for it, even though it took me a second. Duck under that. And 10, I can't, oh, okay, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get that heart. Sometimes it's lodged in the block. We got 10 already. Once you get to this part of the level, those falling rocks stop spawning, and I'm not as interested in killing these types of enemies. I'll kill them anyway if they're in my way, but, you know, I'm mostly interested in the rocks because they're the 500 point ones. Alright, some more falling rocks here. We'll kill some if they're in our way. Grab the heart. That's a good one. So we're in pretty good shape on points now. That hit is fine because we're going to get a chalice. I recommend taking this lower route because you can get that chalice that I just grabbed. You know, if you go up top, no chalice. I'm gonna do the rapid fire shots on these because they take 2 or 3 hits. Honestly, I think this stage is easier than some of the stages we've been through. So if you've made it this far, I think that you're gonna be alright. There's a group of enemies coming up here that I'm just gonna jump through and take a hit. Because, remember, they take 2 or 3 shots to kill them, and I think dealing with them would be kind of slow, so I like to just run through and take a hit. Alright, be careful here. Not going in any other doors until I get to the one that I want. You can actually just walk off that. I'm gonna duck under this shot here. And, alright, this is the door that we want. So here we go, we get our strength upgrade. We've got enough of those hidden points. And grab this thing. We change colors, and if I pause now, you're gonna see that I have 3 icons, 3 little arrow icons next to where it says strength. That's gonna be our final strength upgrade for the game. And it's gonna help a lot on the second boss. Be careful here, because these enemies jump out of the ground. And that's it for stage 2-1. At the very beginning of stage 2-2, you'll notice that there's a door right in front of you. I'm going to try to jump over it and not go in there, because we're trying to avoid any unnecessary doors. It just is sort of a time sink. We're going to have a lot of doors to skip here and a lot of tricky jumps. Luckily, there's no enemies in this part of the stage. If you get up on the door, you can do just a big jump, and that'll get you across these gaps. There's going to be a few of them. Pretty soon, there's going to be some falling rock enemies. And there's going to be a little bit of a branching path where we can go up or down. And I'm going to say let's do the upper route and go in this door. So this door is a health refill. This is the first health refill station that I've taken us to. And we might do 1 or 2 more before the run is over. So you notice that when this stage started, I did not do an intentional death. And that's because I knew that if I made it this far, I could get this health refill. And, you know, maybe if you get hit by a falling rock on the way here, your health might be even lower. So whatever it is, if you go here, you can fill up your health. The other option is just drop in one of those holes, intentionally die, and that'll fill you up. I do want to take a moment here just to talk about health upgrades again. In the previous stage, we just got a strength upgrade. But remember, the health upgrades are based on the points that you see when you pause. And we got the 20,000 point health upgrade earlier. The 50,000 point health upgrade is something you're probably going to find yourself getting in somewhere in World 2. You might even have it already by the time you get here. I think what's going to happen for me is I'm going to get the 50,000 upgrade in between 2-2 and 2-3. But it doesn't always work out that way. You might get it a stage earlier or a stage later. Whatever happens is fine. What I wanted to mention is if you get the upgrade and you have 3 bars available of health, intentional deaths only give you 2 bars of health. So you would not really be full. And coming here to this health refill station will fill you up no matter what, whether you've got a capacity for 2 bars or a capacity for 3 bars. So sometimes it's a little better than an intentional death. So let's continue. You can do a big jump off of here, that gets us across. And just be careful about jumps. This stage is mostly going to be about jumps that can get us killed. There are going to be some enemies here, and it's okay if these touch you. They don't actually damage you at all. What those enemies do, they're thieves. They would steal a special weapon if we had one, but in this speedrun we don't get any, so it doesn't matter. I want to show you something here. I'm going to kill these enemies so I can talk about something. This gap that I jumped over, you can actually run across it. You can run across single tile gaps. Alright, so I just wanted to mention that in case you see me do it. Of course, jumping across it is also fine. So I'm going to run across that one. Alright, some jumps here can be a little tricky. Notice I took a hit there because I was doing this jump and the enemies were in the way. If I had tried to dodge that enemy in midair, there's a possibility that I might have just fallen to my death. So it's better to get hit by an enemy than fall. This area is icy, of course, so you have to be careful about that. We talked about ice a little bit in stage 1, 2. Remember, besides being slippery, the other thing that's dangerous about ice is if you press down, you're going to fall through it. So you have to be careful, especially on those lower platforms. We can kill these enemies in one hit now because we got that strength upgrade. We're going to skip the rest of the doors on this level. And sometimes I take a hit here. That's fine. These moving platforms are not slippery, so that's good. Now, on these platforms, because this is a beginner tutorial, I want to remind you to be very careful about these jumps. There are some pro strategies that you can do on this stage to kind of manipulate the stage to line up all these platforms and get everything in one cycle. But I don't think that's really a beginner strat. I think that for beginners, take each one of these jumps one at a time, and don't jump until you're confident that you're going to make the jump. You notice there's no enemies here while I'm doing those jumps, so, you know, I could take my time if I want to. And we're most of the way through the level. I think that as long as you're careful about some of these jumps, you should be fine on this. Alright, I'm gonna wait here. Be careful for the slippery ice. And we're almost done with the moving platforms. I'm gonna go ahead and jump there. Skip this door. Single tile gap, I'm just gonna run across it. Well, I ran across it at a bad time because there was an enemy popping out, but that's fine. Alright, and that's it for stage 2-2. And here comes the health upgrade. So we made it to stage 2-3, and now we got the health upgrade, so we have a capacity for 3 bars of health instead of 2. One thing you'll notice is I'm not going to do an intentional death here. The reason for that is because an intentional death only fills up 2 bars of health, and I almost have 2 bars of health anyway, so it wouldn't really do much for me. But if you get here with lower health, feel free to go ahead and do that. If you're going to do an intentional death, usually killing yourself on the falling rock enemies is a fast way to do that. On these jumps, let's go one at a time. Play it safe, just like on the previous stage. And then there's a snowman enemy that I want to talk about. These enemies do a lot of damage. And in particular, if you bump into their body, that does a lot of damage to you. Their projectile does a little bit less damage, so if you have to get hit by something, it's better to get hit by the projectile. But a lot of times what you can do is just try to avoid them altogether. So I'm not going to kill this thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump, duck, and try to slide. And you can actually slide under that projectile. Watch out for those other enemies too. Okay, so we've got enough health that we can afford to get hit a little bit, and it'll be okay. But I'm still going to be careful on these jumps, take them one at a time. These snowmen, there are ways that you can kind of manipulate them. You can try to despawn them, this one in particular, but this is a beginner tutorial, so I'm not going to really talk too much about manipulating enemy spawns. Let's just take it one at a time and play it safe. You will notice that from one run to another, they spawn in slightly different spots. So sometimes this guy will be here, sometimes he won't. Sometimes he'll be like standing in the lava. Alright, on the next pass, I think we'll kill him. You could jump through him if you want to sacrifice the health. Alright, so yeah, so this guy here will sometimes be here and sometimes won't. But we're almost through this little area. Alright, this group of enemies right here, it's kind of hard to avoid a hit, but do what you can. A lot of times these enemies will kind of stay at the top. They decided to swing down, that was a little bit weird, but a lot of times those enemies will stay up at the top. There was a little fork in the road, and you notice I take the upper route. I like this one better. One thing I'll tell you is, on this jump here, you actually have to jump a little earlier than you might think. These guys can be a pain. When you're standing in between the two brambles and you're going to jump to the right, jump earlier than you expect to avoid getting hit by the bramble. I usually don't stand up here and kill these, but there is something I wanted to talk about. This pot that drops snakes. when I'm running across the top of one of these pots, I usually like to do a little jump, because sometimes a snake will be popping out and you can actually take damage just from running across the top of it. So a little jump sometimes helps with that. Coming up here, we've got some jumps onto moving platforms that we're going to have to be careful with. You could jump onto this platform when it's on its way up or when it's on its way down. Either way is fine. But the main thing is stay focused on the jumps and don't get distracted by these snakes. I think these snakes can really mess you up, but really it's just like a mind game. Focus on the jumping to the platform, and if you get hit by a snake, it's not going to be that big of a deal, but if you fall in that hole, it is a big deal. So just focus on those jumps. Might take a little practice, but they're really not as bad once you do them a few times. Alright, so we've got a group of enemies here that I usually try to kill. The snowmen will sometimes be here and sometimes won't. Sometimes the snowman will be like right here where I'm standing now. So you just kind of have to react to wherever they are. I try to go through this area a little bit quickly because there are some enemies that spawn out of the ground, like that one, and it's better to just get through quickly. I'm going to do these jumps one at a time. We're almost finished with moving platforms, for this stage at least. These jumps, be a little careful here. You can do these one at a time if you want, or if you're comfortable with it, you could just jump over 2 gaps all at once, like I just did. Watch out for these enemies coming out of the ground. These falling rocks here, I'll tell you that they can kind of mess you up on these next set of jumps. So, you know, be careful. You might want to slow down and kill 1 or 2 of the falling rocks. Once you get a little bit further, the falling rocks stop spawning, and then you have this new set of enemies to deal with instead. Alright, so the snowmen, like I said, they spawn a little bit randomly, and this one's in kind of a bad position. I'm going to try to just jump over him, I think. I think that was probably the best course of action there, because they do take a lot of hits. Duck under the projectile. I'm going to try to rapid fire kill that guy. Let's jump over this one and duck under the projectile. And that's it for this stage. Now we enter stage 2-4, which is the second of the fortress or dungeon levels. Stage 2-4 is another stage where we're going to have to do one of those wall clips like we did in stage 1-4. So we'll talk about that a little more when we get to the room. But yeah, we're going to be doing an interesting route through this stage. We're not going to do the intended route. It's a really nice shortcut that I want to do. But before I do any of that, I need to address my health situation. It's really low, so what do we do when our health is low? We do an intentional death. In the very next room, you could just let these guys hit you. It looks like I'm going to have to get hit twice. If your health is maybe at like 1 bar, where you think these guys are going to have to hit you like 7 or 8 times or something, another option would have been go down and then go left, and that room has some lava and some stronger enemies that might kill you a little bit faster. Either way, whatever you do, try to get here with 2 bars or more of health. And, okay, so the first part of the stage is pretty straightforward. I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to go right. If you get hit once in each of these rooms, that's okay. Try not to get hit multiple times in one of those rooms. And we get to a shop. So, this is the first shop that we've actually been in, and we have lots of money. Now, you might not have 549 hearts. We're not planning out the route that precisely. You might have more or less. One thing I want to say is, here's a chalice, gives us 1 bar of health. Here's the bottle. So the bottle acts a little bit like a fairy in Zelda, where if we take so much damage that we die, then the bottle kicks in. Well, the bottle gives us 1 bar of health also, just like a chalice, but it's basically a chalice that takes effect when you die. It only gets used once. You might also say it's like a reserve tank in Super Metroid, except it only gets used once. Can't refill it. The items that the shopkeeper has are random, so if I leave and come back in, he might have something different. Okay, so there's no bottle this time. I guess what I want to say here is you could buy a chalice, that's going to give you 1 bar immediately, or you could buy the bottle if you can afford it with at least 350. And the bottle's really convenient, because maybe you luck out and you don't need the health right now, and then you get to keep the bottle and use it sometime later in World 3. The disadvantage to the bottle is that you might not have 350 hearts when you get here. Either way is going to be fine. I think I'm going to buy the chalice, but I guess if you can afford the bottle, it's a good idea, but I'm going to buy the chalice because it's what I'm used to, and because I feel like you might not always get the bottle, so I just want to show you the chalice. So we need to go right again, so I'm going to duck and slide under all of this. So you can do that all in just one nice motion like that. It's really not bad. Or take it slower if you need to. The very next room is where we're going to need to do a wall clip. So this definitely looks different from the 1-4 room that we did a wall clip in. I'm going to make a save state here so we can talk about this a little bit. The block that I'm standing on right now is the brick that we need to do a wall clip through. Basically, our goal is to get to the right half of the screen and go down that ladder. So maybe I'll try to show you this trick first. It might take me a few tries, but I'll try to show you the trick first and then I'll talk about it some more. Alright, that was close. There it is. Alright, second try, and we're through. Let me load the save state, but we would go down this ladder next. Okay, just like in stage 1-4, you're doing the same inputs basically, where you need to jump to the correct height. I'm just showing the jump height right now. Remember we talked about this, how you want to jump almost high enough to get up on top of the brick. You also need to jump from the right spot. So I jump from right about here. I'll show you this in slow motion in just a moment. And then once you get in the block, you need to turn around. Okay, so when I show you this in just a moment, I'll show it a few times. I'll do the slow motion thing, and I'll show it to you zoomed in a little, and maybe that'll help. But it's the same type of trick as 1-4. It's just scarier now because we have to do it in the lava. And there's no denying it. This is a scary trick. This is tough. It's going to take practice. You're going to lose some health here. Try not to get too stressed out about it. It's really the same type of trick that you already did in 1-4. And we're going to do it again in 3-4, and it's a really amazing shortcut. Doing this is going to skip so much of this dungeon. And we're going to skip some of the really bad Eggplant Wizard rooms, and we're going to skip some really bad Spike rooms by doing this trick. So I think what I'll do, since I have a recording, is I'll show you this trick a few times now, and then I'll show it in slow motion, and you can pay close attention to where I'm jumping from. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. One thing I want to mention is that once you start sliding through the bricks and you're going to wrap around the screen, you actually don't have to press anything while that's happening. It'll just automatically wrap you around. But if you'd like to, once the trick is kind of in progress, you can hold left and it'll move you through a little bit faster. Another thing I should say is while the screen wrap is taking place, it's important that you don't press jump. Because if you press jump, you're accidentally going to go in this door. And there's two things that could happen. Best case scenario, if you accidentally press jump, is it'll put you through the door and you're back here. And it's kind of a bummer because maybe the trick was working and you accidentally undid it. That's the best case scenario. But if you accidentally press jump on the left side of the door, you're going to soft lock the game. You're going to basically get warped into a dead end room, I don't want to show you that right now, but I'm just saying during the wrapping from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, don't press jump. Don't press anything if you don't want to, but if you want to press anything, the only thing you should be doing is holding left to speed it up a little. There's one more thing I want to talk about. So you've probably noticed in Kid Icarus, sometimes when you jump into the lava, you don't take any damage. Like right there, I didn't take any damage, and right there I did. And it might seem like it's random to you whether you take damage or not. No damage. And that time I did take damage. It's not random though. There's actually a global counter or global timer that I think it's every 32 frames, if I'm not mistaken. Every 32 frames it checks to see if you're in contact with the lava and it will do damage to you. So if you jump in and jump out and you're not on that 30-second frame, then you won't take any damage. If you want to, we could try to use this to our advantage. So let's go to this room to the left. This is the room that we came from. And these spike things are also on a global timer. So I'll show you a little timing trick here. If we enter the door to the right at the right moment, we could try to avoid taking damage from the lava. It's not foolproof, but it'll help a little bit. Okay, so of these 4 spikes, let's look at the 4th one, the one that's closest to me. I'm going to try to enter the door when the spike is on its way back up, like just when the spike starts going back up. Okay, that's good timing. You notice that when I first jumped into the lava, I didn't take any damage. So I basically got one free attempt at the trick. I did wind up taking damage because I failed the trick and fell back in the lava, but I didn't take any damage from the lava the first time. Let's do this again. 4th spike on its way, that might be a little late. Let's try it again. 4th spike on its way back up. Jump in, no damage, try the trick, jump out. I got a full attempt at the trick that time and didn't take any damage. So if you want to play it super safe, you could try to do this every time you attempt the trick. And if the trick takes you, 10 tries or something, it's a little bit slow to do this every time. But, right there I got hit by the lava once. Maybe getting hit by the lava once is better than getting hit by it twice. That's good timing. And that time I got it. So actually I got through the trick that time without taking any damage on that attempt. So I'll point out that of these 4 spikes, I've been focusing on the 4th one. You could actually do the same exact timing trick with the 2nd spike. So the 2nd or the 4th. I'm going to look at the 2nd spike. It's on its way back up. Whoops, I kind of messed up there, but I didn't take any damage. 2nd spike on its way back up. Alright, so you saw that when I first jumped in the lava, I didn't take any damage. I fell back in and took a hit. It's up to you if you want to use this or not. Be a little careful though. You don't want to just be pacing around in the lava, taking constant damage. You want to be jumping in and jumping out and try to avoid some damage because you can very quickly go through all your health this way. This is a tough trick. It's going to take practice. Try not to get too frustrated. It's kind of like the 1 in 1-4, so, if you practice one of these tricks, usually you'll wind up getting better at both of them. But yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say about it. Just practice, practice, practice. Don't expect to get it on your first try. What else? We got that chalice or the bottle. That's going to help here. And, yeah, we'll talk about it a little more when we get to 3 Forks. We'll have to do a wall clip there. And the 3-4 wall clip, the room layout is similar to this one, but there's no lava. So the room that we're in right now is the only time we ever have to do a wall clip standing in lava. It is kind of a scary trick, but I know you can get it with some practice. Alright, let's continue on. That shortcut let us skip a lot of the dungeon, and we're actually pretty close to the boss already. So make your way through there. Those rooms are not too bad. I don't know if I need to go back and talk about that more, but I feel like those spike rooms are not too bad. Over here, usually I won't have this much money. I guess if you have enough and you can afford it, you could buy a chalice or a bottle here. But I'm going to skip it because I feel like usually I wouldn't have this much money. The very next room is going to be Eggplant Wizards. But the good news is that this is the only time we're going to see eggplant wizards in the speedrun. So watch what I do when I enter. I'm going to enter the room and move to the left a little bit to a safe spot. Right here. This is a safe spot. I could stand here all day and I won't get hit. I'm assuming you've played this game before and you know these eggplant wizards turn you into an eggplant, and it's an ordeal. You don't want to get touched by those projectiles. I would recommend that when you get in this room, get to this safe spot and kill this one. Okay? And I'm going to continue up here, and I'm going to kill this one, but I'm going to do this from underneath where it's pretty safe. And we're going to go up the ladder. But I'll do this room a couple more times just to show you. Make a save state here, maybe. Go through the room, get to this little safe spot, kill this one, wait for the projectile to not be in the way, and just, you know, nice and safe. You do not want to get touched by one of those things. And we make our way up the ladder. Save state so I can show it again. There is something that I want to point out here. When I get to this safe platform here, watch what happens if I try to do a rapid fire. Alright, it took more hits that time. I'll show you again. What was that, 6 shots? I think it took 7 shots to kill him. But if I shoot him slower, it takes 4 shots. So, Kid Icarus is kind of funny that way. The speed at which you fire your shots can affect how many hits it takes. The reason I'm saying that is because you don't want to be like 1, 2, 3, 4 and then go. You want to fire your shots and make sure the thing is dead before you jump over, because it might take a 5th shot. You might even want to shoot a little bit slower to guarantee that it's going to happen in 4 shots. Whatever you do, make your way through this room and go up the ladder. And we're done with eggplant wizards. I'm going to kill these things because they're in the way. And now we're at the boss fight. I'm going to make a save state here so I can show you the boss more than once. Before we even start attacking this boss, let's talk a little bit about the patterns. I think it's a good idea to just practice moving around this room. Practice dodging the boss, get used to its movement, learn where you want to stand, learn where the safe spots are. Just spend a couple minutes practicing just jumping around, because I think what you'll find is that this boss can be remarkably safe. I mean, you could play it really safe. You could stay in here all day and not get hit if you're careful. You know, you could jump over the boss, you could go under the boss. If you get used to this, it's going to help us a lot in this fight. Alright, so let's start attacking though. Enough of that. So, you can do jump shots, you can do vertical shots, horizontal shots. You've got a little life meter for the boss at the bottom, and you can keep an eye on its health, so you'll know how you're doing. But yeah, this boss fight can be really safe if you practice it a bit and practice moving around the room. It's when you try to rush too much and you try to play this boss fight too aggressively that you wind up taking a bunch of damage. And it's a trade-off. You know, of course you want to go fast, this is a speedrun, but you also don't want to get killed. You know, we bought that chalice earlier, or maybe you bought a bottle instead, but you might have lost a bunch of health trying to do the wall clip in the lava, so you don't want to die in this room. One thing you might want to do, if you want to try this a little bit more aggressively, is try to do the rapid fire shots. Like that was two in one jump. That was 2. Alright, so I think it's not too bad. It just like anything else, it does take some practice. I'm going to load my save state here. Do it one more time. We'll just do it one more time. One thing you might want to try is you could start the fight pretty aggressively, depending on how much health you have. You know, try to get in lots of double shots, stay really close, getting lots of shots in. But then if you find yourself getting hit a few times, you could scale it back and start playing a little bit safer. You know, so keep an eye on your health. Maybe every once in a while glance over and look at the boss's health. If you take some damage, that's fine. I mean, just like any other level, we could do an intentional death at the start of the next one. We could just kill ourselves and get back to 2 bars. Honestly, there's a pretty good chance we're gonna do that in a beginner run, so just don't die. Notice that there are some platforms that I'm not using at all. Like, I never use the one all the way to the far left or the far right. Alright, now we go to World 3 and we've got vertical scrolling stages again. So at the start of level 3-1, you might find yourself a little bit low on health, because we did just fight a boss after all. You've got 2 options here. First of all, on these clouds, if you just hold down, you're going to fall through, take an intentional death. But remember, that's only going to get us 2 bars of health. We have a capacity for 3 bars of health. So I think a better option is if you go in this door, you've got a health refill pool. And you could probably just do this instead. I'm doing both to show you both. I did the intentional death and then I came in here. You could probably just come in there, fill up your health. Unless you're comfortable with just 2 bars of health, in that case, take the death and then play the level. Before I go further, I'm just going to mention that Stage 3-1 is another one of the strength upgrade levels, where there's a door near the end of the stage, and there's a guy in there that'll give you a strength upgrade if you got enough points. You know the drill by now. But we're not going to do that. We have all the strength upgrades we need already, so this level is going to be pretty straightforward for us. I just thought I'd mention that in case anyone was wondering. A couple of different types of enemies to worry about. Of course, there's snakes. There's some enemies that can pop out of these clouds and shoot stuff at us. I'm sure we'll see some of those. There's one. But I want to talk about the little group that's up here. I'm not really sure what to call this. But if you shoot the small ones, they drop just a small heart. If you shoot the big guy, he drops a big heart. Something that's interesting is if you get the big heart, it makes the small enemies disappear. So sometimes you could use that to your advantage when you're trying to go through. If you're going to take a hit, it's better to get hit by the small things and not the big guy, because the big guy does a lot of damage, but all he does is hover there, so it's usually pretty easy to avoid him. They do sometimes spawn in inconvenient spots, and in that case, you probably want to try to kill the whole group. Be careful on these jumps, and take them slowly if you have to. If you die, it's not really that far into the stage, so you would just start the stage over from the beginning. Sometimes this Reaper will see you. You could duck here, that helps a little bit, and take him out. Get up here. These little floating things, by the way, those do damage to you, so try not to touch them. I am going to be wrapping around the screen to the right, and I'm going to try to get on this moving platform on the first cycle. This one right here, and get up. If you have to wait a cycle, wait for that thing to loop around, that's fine. You know, it's better to play it safe rather than fall to your death, so do whatever you have to do. From here, you just climb up vertically. I'm going to shoot that, grab the heart, shoot that, grab the heart. There's a flying enemy that I just shot on the way, and we're at the end of the stage already. I'll just mention that over there to the left, that is the door you'd go in if you were trying to get the strength upgrade, but we're not going to do that. So that's it. 3-1 is a really short stage. Stage 3-2 is another one of these ones where you might start with lower health, and you might just want to hold down on the first set of clouds to do an intentional death. That's going to get us back up to 2 bars. Stage 3-1 and 3-2 are the fastest places to do intentional deaths like that. There are 2 main challenges on this stage. First of all, these jumps that we have to do. You don't want to fall to your death. And second of all, the Reapers. There are some Reapers on this stage that are in really tricky spots, so you're probably going to get seen a couple of times. I'm going to kill that one. I'm going to jump through this thing. So that thing just did a hit to me. I took some damage, but it doesn't hurt that much, and I wanted to get up there quickly. Be careful with these jumps. Don't get too greedy. We can wait a cycle. Something that I don't think I've mentioned yet is that when these Reapers are in their freak-out animation, you can actually jump through them without taking any damage. So sometimes you can take advantage of that to get through quicker. I'm gonna jump through the middle of these clouds here. If you jump through the middle, those snakes won't hit you. And yeah, there's a Reaper coming up. Now with this Reaper, it's up to you if you want to slow down and try to kill him. Like that. Or if you want to try to just jump through, maybe you'll get seen. It's up to you. We've got some health to spare. In fact, there's going to be a health refill on this stage. I'm going through these platforms pretty quickly, but go slower if you need to. Let's just jump over. But yeah, there's going to be a health refill, so if your health starts getting a little bit low here, just make sure that you make it to the refill. It's not this door, but it's going to be the next door. At this part of the stage, we've got those jumping octopus enemies following us around. They do a lot of damage. It's not that big of a deal because I know there's the health refill coming up, but try to avoid them if you can. Snakes do less damage, so if you have to get hit by something, it's better to get hit by a snake. Once you get here, this is the door that we're going to go in. Also, I just want to remind you that on these clouds, if you press down, you're going to fall through, so just watch out for that. Okay, all these enemies are swarming. Let's get in the door. Here's our health refill. This is positioned pretty close to the end of stage 3-2. So what's nice about that is we're going to start stage 3-3 with full health or really close to full health. Jump on top of the door and make your way up. Sometimes you'll take one hit here. Probably just one hit or no hits at all. And that's it. So it's kind of a tricky stage, but practice a little bit. It's not the worst. As soon as stage 3-3 starts, move to the right and jump up here. Because there are two types of enemies coming. There are these, which are definitely not Metroids, and then there are the falling snakes. So I think it's good to just get up here. It's a pretty safe spot. So as soon as it started, I got up here. You don't have to stand around here killing these all day. I'm just talking about it, so I stopped. But move on up here. Up here, you have to do some platforming that's similar to some stuff that we did in 3-1. We don't need that harp, so I'm just gonna kill these two and wait for my ride. Get up here. A lot of times these platforms will line up pretty nicely and you can move pretty quickly, but if you want to take it a little bit slower, a little bit more careful, you can wait for them to wrap around. Okay, up here, you can't make this jump from the lower platform, so I had to jump on that higher platform to get up here on the cloud. This is another spot that you can move pretty quickly, because look at how these platforms are lined up. It's just jump, 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 and jump up here. Let's go this way. If we keep moving, those enemies below us will just stay down there, and you'll typically outrun them. It's not a big deal. Honestly, I think this stage is probably easier than 3-2. Remember, these things here do damage, so jump over them. I'm not going to slow down to kill any of those enemies, I'm just going to keep moving. Things popping out of the floor are kind of random. You might get hit once or twice. It's not a whole lot you can do about them. I'm going to jump up the middle of this thing. Once you get to here, there's going to be a lot of clouds, so remember, don't press down because you'll fall through. And I want to stop here to talk about this jump. There's a really weird jump here where I need to jump to the left. And I've always thought this jump was really awkward. You might want to practice it a little bit, but just jump pretty late, you're going to hit your head. Alright, that's it. I'll continue upward, but I'll just show you again. Just jump pretty late, hit your head, and it's fine. It's just a little bit awkward. This guy here often spawns in a bad place. It's kind of inconvenient, so I'm going to kill him. Once you get here, a lot of times you can avoid being spotted by that Reaper if you just move fast. And I would recommend that you take kind of the middle path through this area. It looks like, we could wrap around the screen and stay by the edges, but I like that middle path. Up here, though, you have to wrap around the screen. You might get seen by this Reaper, but we're really close to the end of the stage, and we probably have enough life that we can afford to get hit by a Reaper. This is it. This is the end of the stage, so just make your way into the door, and you are done. That's the end of the vertical scrolling stages. Stage 3-4 is the last of the fortress levels we have to deal with. And again, we're going to do sort of an unconventional route through this level and do a major shortcut. So I'll talk about the shortcut when we get to it. First thing you should know is we need to go down this ladder, and there's going to be 2 eggplant wizards waiting for us. Now, I think earlier in stage 2-4, I might have misspoke, because I think I said that we were finished with Eggplant Wizards for the run, but there is this one more room of them waiting for us. Luckily, they're not going to cause us any problems. Here's what you want to do. As you go down this ladder, hold down and left. I'm holding down and left, and I land right about here. And once I land here, I'm completely safe. They're not going to hit me. I'm going to go down the ladder. Once you get here, there's only one way to go, so you go down again. It's okay if you get hit a little bit. Go right in this room. I guess I should say that even though the shortcut is going to let us skip most of the stage, you still might want to write down the path, because there are some twists and turns. We went down, down, right, and now we're going to go up. The next room is going to have an enemy that I'm just going to run through because my health is fine. You can slow down and kill that guy if you have to. Once you're here, we're kind of on a straight path, so you go right and go down. In this room, we're going to go down. And in this room, we're going to go right. So we've made it to this shop, which is a dead end. And we're not going to buy anything. We came to this room because this is where we're going to do our major shortcut. We're going to do a wall clip in this room, and this shortcut is going to warp us out of the level, and it's going to allow us to go straight to stage 4-1, and we're going to skip the stage 3 boss. Why don't I make a save state here, and I'm going to show you the trick, and then I'll talk about it a little bit. Okay, so that's the trick, and this is the cutscene that plays between World 3 and World 4. And the next thing you're going to see is we're in World 4. Alright, that's an amazing shortcut. Just skipped most of stage 3-4 and we skipped the boss. I'm going to go back to my save state though, because I want to talk about this some more. So what did I do? It's similar to what we did in 2-4. This brick is the same height that we're used to. It's the same height brick as that we've been doing wall clips from. I ran and I jumped from kind of the same distance that we've been doing wall clips from. Once I was in there, I turned around. There's one key difference about this that makes this different from the 2-4 wall clip, and that is as I was passing under this door, I pressed jump at the right moment to jump into the left side of this door. You might remember that back in stage 2-4, I made a big deal about how when you're wrapping through the screen in 2-4, you should not press jump, because if you press jump in 2-4 doing the wall clip, you might soft lock the game. But in stage 3-4, we do want to press jump at the right moment. So let me show you what happens when I try to do this wall clip. Once I get in there, I'll show you what happens if I don't press jump. Might take a couple of tries. So if I don't press jump, I just wrap around the screen like that. That's very reminiscent of what happened in 2-4. But if I do press jump, when I'm underneath this door on the left half of it, it warps me out of the level. You kind of have to figure out the timing. If you press jump too soon, it's going to jump into the right half of the door, and that's just going to take you into this room. Which is not that big of a deal. I mean, you just go back in and try it again. But, you know, ideally you jump in the left half of the door and warp out of the stage. If you press jump too late, you're just going to wrap around the screen, and you're not going to enter the door at all. So I think what I'll do at this point, since I'm recording, is I'll show you the trick a couple of times. I'll show it to you in slow motion, and you can pay close attention to where I'm jumping from and, you know, what height I'm jumping to. Alright, so now that you've seen the trick a couple of times, hopefully that was helpful. I'm going to do this just a couple more times. You're going to see that I'm not always going to get it on my first try. Well, that time I did. So it takes you to the cutscene. Sometimes the text will look a little weird during the cutscene. Let's try this again. Alright, so It is kind of precise, but it's the same type of wall clip that we've been doing. Okay, I pressed jump too late, and I pressed jump too late, so I didn't actually do the warp. If you jump too high, sometimes you accidentally run through the door. And that looks good. So this is what I mean about the text sometimes showing up weird. It's kind of a combination of the shopkeeper text and the cutscene text. Here's my save state. So, it's a tough trick, but it's really similar to the wall clips we've been doing in the other stages. And this is a massive shortcut. You don't have to fight the stage 3 boss, which is a real pain, and go straight to World 4. I'll tell you that this trick always seems harder to do if you're on PB pace. I think nerves can really affect you because you're really close to the end of the run. Stage 4-1 is an auto-scroller, so there's not really much that we can do to optimize that stage. It kind of means that stage 3-4 is kind of the big determining factor in what time you wind up getting. You know, if you get here on PB pace, you really are going to want to hold on to that, and nerves can be an issue. I'm not really sure what I could say about that other than to practice this trick. You know, don't expect to get it on your first try. What you should know is even if this takes you a bunch of tries, it's still going to save you time. Like, you could be jumping into this wall, you know, over and over and over again, do this for a minute, and it's still going to save you time. Probably do this for 2 minutes, and it would still save you time, compared to not doing the trick, compared to actually fighting the boss. Let's do this one more time, and then we'll move on. So, really amazing shortcut. Takes us right to World 4. So you've made it this far. We're at the final stage of the game now. This stage is an auto-scroller, which means there's not really a lot that we can do to optimize it, but there's still a few things we need to talk about. First thing you'll notice is that once you enter this stage, it fills up your health all the way, so it doesn't matter how much we had in 3-4. The main thing that I want to talk about is we have to kill enemies. This stage has a unique feature that you have to kill 50 enemies by the time we get to a certain cutoff, and if you haven't killed 50 enemies, the stage will loop again, which is a massive time loss, so it's really important to kill enemies. These guys here take some practice. I would recommend that you use a password or save state to practice killing them. Notice I'm not even bothering trying to kill those things, because I can't kill them as they're falling. It takes too many hits. This guy, try to hit all 3 pieces and then try to shoot these pillars. Sometimes there'll only be 2 of them, but I was lucky and I got a stack of 3. These harpies, you're going to want to practice killing them. Notice that I'm trying to collect the hearts as I kill them, because the next set of harpies isn't going to appear until I pick up the hearts. And now we're past the harpies, so kill these, collect the hearts so that the next group can spawn. Kill them, collect the hearts so that the next group can appear. You can afford to take some hits here, so it's not a big deal. Once you get to this ghost, you're kind of nearing the end of the stage. I'm going to stay to the right and just kill these things as they appear, and we're getting really close to the cutoff where the game decides if we've killed 50 enemies or not. One more group of these things. If you've killed 50 enemies, the cutoff is happening now. If you've killed 50 enemies, you're going to see the brick change color, like it just did. If you get here and you don't see that brick down there, it means the stage is looping. There is a trick to this final boss. Try to position yourself at about this height. Alright, and look at what happened. We are completely safe from the beams here. In fact, you could even go just slightly higher up, and the beams will still go underneath you. From here, we can fire shots in. The only thing you really have to worry about is keeping this sort of height, and maybe dodging the occasional snake. So I'm going to start doing some rapid fire here, do some damage to the boss. And you could do this in a casual playthrough too. I'm going to stop here just to talk about some stuff. We've got enough health that if a snake hits us, it's not a big deal. But if you notice your health getting a little bit low, you could try to back up and dodge them. That might mean that you have to, stop shooting for a moment. Another thing you could do is if a snake is about to hit you, you could shoot it just before it hits you. Now, for firing these shots, I want to point out that when you shoot, the shield disappears. And you can't shoot again until you see the shield again. So what I usually do is keep my eye on the shield, and as soon as I see the shield reappear, like the shield could be on the screen for a single frame, and I'm trying to shoot again. So there's kind of a rhythm that you want to get into. So let's keep your eye on the shield. And see, as soon as it reappears, that's when I'm shooting again. It's not that hard, but you might just want to practice the rhythm. With this much health, I'll usually just ignore the snakes. A lot of my shots are going to take them out, but if a snake happens to get through and hit me, it's not a big deal. Alright, so stage 4-1 might seem a little anticlimactic, because it's one of the easiest stages, but there it is. Hold right, and we're going to split when you see this screen. Alright, so that's it, we did it. That is Kid Icarus. I'm going to let this ending play, and I'm going to let the credits play, but I've got just a few things I want to say while that's happening. Maybe now's a good time just for some general advice. I think you should set up save states. You could set up save states for each level, practice each stage. I think you should practice the wall clips in 1-4, 2-4, and 3-4, and practice the boss fights. If you're not able to set up save states because maybe you're playing on the original cartridge, remember you could play through this game and just write down passwords for each stage, and then use the passwords to practice whatever stages you want. Also, remember that when you die in this game, it just sends you back to the beginning of a stage. And I think when you're a beginner at this, you're first starting out, you should just keep going if you die. It's not a big deal if you have a PB that has a couple of deaths in it. I think the most important thing is to complete your runs and get practice of the full run and, the later stages. That's my opinion, at least. Before I finish, I want to give a couple of shout-outs. I learned a lot about this game by watching the runs of Darkwing Duck and Jorf. Both of them are complete masters at this game, and they've both done runs of this at GDQs, so you can find those runs online. That's pretty helpful. Also, Darkwing Duck and Jorf did a tutorial of this game a few years ago. It only covers through stage 2-4, but that's also something that you might want to look for. Alright, so if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful. I think this is a really cool speedrun. You should give it a try, record your runs, and submit your times to the leaderboard at speedrun.com. This game has a pretty short leaderboard, so I'd love to see more people running it, more people submitting times. If you have any questions, my name is Fruit Bat Salad. I'm on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter with the same name in all three places, and I'd love to talk about Kid Icarus with you, so if you have questions, feel free to reach out. But yeah, I think that is it. So enjoy the game. I hope you'll give the speedrun a try. It's a really interesting one. It might seem tough at first, but give it a little practice and it can be a lot of fun.